Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co host, the J.R. Stewart.
And I'm your co-host TD3. It is Wednesday, May the 28th, 2025. And if it is Wednesday night, Jimmy,
It's certainly Black Men Speak. So let me get my chair position here, Tom. Um, if you haven't already, please hit the like button to help us with the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And please hit that like button and the notification button so you'll be notified when new shows are uploaded, which is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. as our live show concludes. And let's give a big thank out to Count Basie for our theme music, for our own studio, and Forest Films for subsidizing our virtual studio here. And with that being said, Tom, let's do what we do best, which is bring leading edge information about the Black community to social media.
all right, Jimmy,
So let's get started.
we have got a jam-packed show tonight with plenty of stories and content. Hopefully we can get through to all of it. So let's go ahead and get this party started right. Okay, first we're going to start off with some condolences for those of you who have not heard early a couple of days ago. Charles Rangel, the distinguished politician from Harlem, New York, who served in the U.S. House of Representatives for 46 years, became an ancestor on May 26th
Oh, no.
at the age of 94 years old. He lived a good long life, Jimmy. Born on June 11, 1930 in Harlem, New York, Rangel served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War, earning the Bronze Star and Purple Heart. After returning home, he utilized the GI Bill to obtain a degree from New York University and St. John's University Law School. In 1970, he launched his political career by unseating then incumbent Adam Clayton Powell Jr., becoming the representative for New York's 13th congressional district. He served until his retirement in 2017, making him one of the longest serving members in U.S. House history. Rangel was a founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus in 1971 and became the first African American to chair the powerful House Ways and Means Committee in 2007. Throughout his tenure, he played a pivotal role in shaping significant legislation, including contributions to the Affordable Care Act and the Low Income Housing Tax Credit. He also championed the 1987 Rangel Amendment, which aimed to restrict tax benefits for U.S. companies invested in apartheid-era South Africa. Rangel was known for his unwavering commitment to social justice and was the last surviving member of what was known New York's influential Gang of Four, also including David Dinkins, Percy Sutton, Basil Patterson. Following his retirement, he served as statesman and resident at the City College of New York. So we would definitely like to give our condolences to the family, loved ones, and those, of course, in U.S. Congress history at the passing of Charles Rangel, who clearly lived a very long life
Yes,
at
he did.
the age of 94 years old.
Our politics didn't agree, but I definitely remember him. And he was very influential with seniority and the committees that he sat on. So, yeah, it's no joke if you can get to the Ways and Means Committee.
Absolutely. Very, very powerful
Very
committee.
powerful. Actually, the most powerful, I would say, after the Budget Committee. But yeah, Ways and Means, they set the rules. And
Here, what
uh,
what all does the Ways and Means committee do, Jimmy, to just to enlighten people?
they set the rules and the agenda for all the legislation that's passed. So you can't get anything like you start off in subcommittees and gets through some committees, but eventually it has to go through Ways and Means, and they also are directly responsible for tax policy. So tax policy and setting the rules is what the Ways and Means Committee does.
They set the parameters. So, hey, to have had a chairmanship over that committee, you had a lot of sway.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, a lot of people fight and wait for a long time to get on that committee. If you just get on there as a member, I mean, it puts you in a very powerful position because, like I said, you're writing the tax code and the rules and regulations of every year, every 2 years for the whole nation. So, yeah, if you can get to the, especially if you're the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, like I said, that's a very powerful committee to be on. So, I
Uh,
definitely remember Wrangle, though.
Gotcha. All right. Let's go ahead and get started with our stories. We have a cornucopia to get to today. One that should be inspiring and right up your alley, Jimmy. A teen at one time living out of his car earned full ride scholarship to multiple colleges. At the young age of 19, Max Jones' story is one of resilience, determination, and transformational power and community support. Once living out of his car while attending high school in Richmond, Virginia, Jones is now set to embark on a new chapter armed with multiple full ride college scholarships. Jones' early life was marked by instability. Raised by his mother alongside half siblings, financial hardships were a constant. As his siblings' father re entered their lives, though Jones and his mother found themselves increasingly isolated. Determined to change his circumstances, Jones made the courageous decision to leave home, taking a bus to Richmond to search for a fresh start. Enrolling at George White High School, Jones balanced academics with a job at a local restaurant. Without stable housing, he often slept in his car. Lacking access to necessities, despite these challenges, Jones maintained his commitment to education, attending classes daily and striving for academic success. Recognizing his plight, school staff and community members offered support. Pastor Robert Winfrey of the New Life Deliverance Tabernacle provided Jones with shelter, food, and a safe space to focus on his studies. Perseverance eventually paid off. He received full scholarships to several institutions, including Payne College in Georgia, Virginia Union University, and Ohio State University, or as they were called, the Ohio State.
The Ohio State University.
Reflecting on his journey, though, Jones expressed gratitude and a desire to give back. He said, maybe I might not be fully conscious of what I'm saying right now, but I am going to change the world and I'm going to give back to everybody who gave to me. Everybody. Jones' story is a powerful reminder of the impact of community support and the strength of the human spirit in overcoming obstacles and adversity.
So thanks, Tom, for finding this story so we can highlight it once again on this show. We seem to chronicle quite a few what society would call overachievers. But once again, I'm trying to get the message out that all the people that we chronicle on this show doing extraordinary things are not overachievers. They're just achievers. They made their minds up to do something, did not buy into any narrative that did not point them as the hero of their own story. Greatness is within our genetic material, Tom, which means we have the potential for greatness. You have to go out there and do it. Here's a person who left home, was homeless, and decided to had a determination to make something of himself. And generally, being homeless and sleeping in your car would be enough to discourage anybody, the average person, from going forward. But this person not only went forward, Tom, but went forward in a way that you're able to earn scholarship and get a free ride for college. My only advice to these young men would be to tell your story, shine your light on yourself. Do not be afraid to go out there and let your light shine so others can see what's potentially available to everyone. Tom, all black kids should be in the same boat doing this very same thing. You have the genetic material for greatness. It doesn't make you better than anyone, but it certainly don't make you less than anyone. But it does mean that God has equipped you with everything that you need, all the genetic material for you to go out there and do great things. And if you're wasting your life away, gang banging, slanging dope, going to jail, beating up on women, and being unproductive overall to yourself and society, and being a blight on society, then that's your loss. And that's not anybody holding you back. It's not the man putting his boot on your neck or back and keeping you down. That is you not realizing your potential by not going out there and achieving what God intended for you to do. God did not bring you to America for your ancestors, 20 million of them, to lose their life being tossed in the ocean, eaten by sharks, so you can end up being a gangbanger in this country. God brought you to do great things in time. Now's the time for us to stop this game playing, stop, pretending that everybody's keeping us down. This man was homeless. This is not the only homeless person that we've chronicled on this show. The girl from Florida, her and her family were homeless, and she ended up being valedictorian of her class, and they were living out of their car. So don't tell me anything about money and wealth and we can't get ahead. No, you can get ahead. You can achieve if you just decide that you're going to be exactly what God intended you to be, which is great.
Well, I would agree with you on that, Jimmy, and I think that is the power of understanding and knowing your own history, whether that is your personal family lineage or the history of your people and of your culture. And I think, unfortunately, that is the danger of sometimes when someone else is controlling your history and your narrative, you don't understand the power of what your ancestors have overcome in order for you just to even be here, for you to be living. And the reality of it is that, we've all had to overcome hurdles and obstacles in life, regardless of what our background or what our ilk was. But it is absolutely required that you understand your history of your people, your culture, your family lineage, so you can understand that everything that they got through, there's nothing that we can deal with today that's any harder than what our ancestors went through, in particular going through chattel slavery, where they were literally forced in order to overcome dangerous odds to come to this country and build what is now considered to be the greatest country in the world, depending on who you talk to. So with that being said, we want to congratulate this young man, wish him the best of luck, and absolutely do great things.
And one more comment, Tom. I don't know what this man's home environment was, but for him to leave home, feel he had to leave home to do what he had to do, speaks volumes. And this is what I'm trying to tell everyone. Hopefully, you have a home environment that encourages you for greatness. If it does not, if you live in a toxic environment, you may have to leave home to get your life together. But do not lose hope of the dream of greatness, because, like I said, we all have the genetic material and the soul and spirit. God made you special for a reason. Go out there and live your dream and achieve greatness. What's our
All
next story, T?
All right, next story. Harvard agrees to relinquish early photos that are among the earliest photos of enslaved Africans after a 15-year battle. Harvard University has agreed to relinquish 175-year-old photographs believed to be the earliest taken of enslaved Africans to a South Carolina museum devoted to African American history as a part of a settlement with one of the subject descendants. The photos of the subjects are identified by Tamara Lanier, pictured here, as her great 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 grandfather Renty, whom she called Papa Renty, and his daughter Delia, which will be transferred from the Peabody Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology to the International African American Museum in South Carolina, where they were enslaved in 1850 when the photos were taken. The landmark settlement between Lanier and Harvard to release the 19th century daguerreotypes, a precursor to the modern day photograph, is an unprecedented victory for descendants of those enslaved in the United States. Lanier, who lived in Connecticut, sued Harvard in 2019 for wrongful seizure, possession, and expropriation of the images of her uncle Renty, Delia, great 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 grandfather Renty, Delia, and 5 other enslaved Africans. The suit attacked Harvard for its exploitation of Renty's image at a 2017 conference. And I remember this story, Jimmy. The suit also said Harvard has capitalized on the photographs by demanding a hefty licensing fee to reproduce the images. For those of you out there, you may have seen this picture someplace else. This has been used by Harvard for years. The daguerreotypes were commissioned by Harvard biologist Louis Agassiz, whose theory on racial differences were used to support slavery in the United States. The lawsuit says Agassiz came across Renty and Delia while touring plantations in search of racially pure slaves born in Africa. To create the images, Renty and Delia were posed shirtless and photographed from several different angles. To Agassiz, Renty and Delia were nothing more than research specimens, the suit says. The violence of compelling them to participate in a degrading exercise designed to prove their own subhuman status would not have occurred to him, let alone matter to him. In 2022, the Massachusetts Supreme Court ruled in Lanier's favor and reaffirmed the merits of Lanier's lawsuit against Harvard after a lower court judge ruled she had no legal claim to the images. The South Carolina Museum has committed to working with Lanier and including her in decisions about how the story of these images and her family members will be told in the future. Their attorney said everybody has the right to tell the story of their own families. In Lanier's lawsuit, she asked for Harvard to acknowledge its complicity in slavery, to listen to Lanier's oral family history, and to pay an unspecified sum of damages. An undisclosed financial settlement was part of the resolution that Harvard announced.
Okay, Tom, you sent me this story, which is a good story. Thank you so much. I did have to go and pull up the case file. I didn't get a chance to study the whole case and the appeals of it because it's quite lengthy. I did kind of scan through enough of it. I think I got the gist of it. I think I would have been a little more in support of this young lady or this lady if money wasn't involved. But it seemed like the root of this, Tom. I mean, it's always money seems to corrupt everything. Um, in the end, from the reading the final judgment and settlement, not the settlement because there's a lot of it's under seal, especially about the financial disclosure, but nothing has really changed. I mean, Harvard had this open in their museum. Now it's going to be open in a South Carolina museum, I believe. The only difference, Harvard did not relinquish their rights to the royalties on the photographs because they did commission the taking of it. Um, and in the end, with the financial settlement, basically the argument was these people didn't have control of their lives; so they could consent to being photographed this way. If you had taken a public photograph, if you were just going down the street taking pictures of slaves, it would be one thing, but for them to pose meant that they have to
Forced to
consent,
impose. Right.
right? And that they were slaves and they didn't have the ability to consent, to give their consent to the photographs. So basically, the argument is that you obtained the photographs illegally, you've been benefiting from this illegally, but now Tom, I don't know if Harvard's benefiting illegally versus you benefiting illegally also because you don't have your family's grandparents, grandfathers, great grandfathers consent either. Nobody does. He's gone. The people involved are gone. Not only the Harvard not have it, you don't have it either, but they've benefited and now you benefited financially. So this is a good story, and I wish there was not a financial settlement involved. But when you benefit from illegal gains, you're just as guilty as the person who's committing the crime. If I rob a bank and then I'm ordered to share some of the money with you, even though you didn't go in the bank with me, just the fact that you got some of the money means that you're just as complicit and guilty as I am. What say you, Tom?
What I say is that with this being a member of our family, I think the most important thing for them is having control over the narrative of the family, the story, how they got here, where they're going, and obviously we live in a capitalist country, so in a lot of cases, there's going to typically be money involved because this is the United States and it's about capitalism. But at the end of the day, for the long term and for the future, I think the important thing is that their ancestors are not looked at as specimens in a museum to be exploited, but for them to be able to control the narrative of their family, that they were humans, that they belonged to a great family lineage and a culture and public things that we, may not be aware of, but at least they have control of the storyline as to how their ancestors will be shaped in their legacy. And I think that's the most important thing. I don't have the details in terms of what
Well, I
the
think they had some right of refusal on the narrative when it goes into the South Carolina Museum, or maybe they're going to help write it. But
Right. They will be involved once it goes to the South Carolina Museum.
yes,
They will be involved and they will be able to shape their stories as human beings, not as specimens in a museum at Harvard to be, for lack of a better term, commercialized. That these were
yes, I don't think today's age of political correctness that Harvard was actually putting these pictures out there as subhuman species. Um, they may have been part of I didn't see the exhibit, but it may have been part of an exhibit to demonstrate man's inhumanity to man back at that time and how far we've grown. But like I said, the money clouds the issue for me. So, but I'm glad that she has maybe some closure on this and her and her family can move on. I don't know in the bigger picture if it's going to make that much of a difference in everyone's overall life.
I think it will make a difference for them and their family having control over the future.
Yeah, for them and their family, but for the rest
Exactly.
of
And that's the important thing to them, for the
yeah.
family. So they're not looking at their family just literally being exploited. They have no control over, the humanization over their ancestors so that, they can rest peacefully. Let's go ahead and move forward. Got a couple of folks on the chat line that we want to acknowledge. We have
Sure.
Dr. Ed Gray, the commish.
Yeah, the commish.
Thank him for joining him. And of course, watch his commish radio show every Saturday morning. Great show.
Very good show, people. Go out and check it out.
Exactly. I also want to welcome Brother Frederick V. Roberts, Esquire, out of Prairie View, Texas, for joining the chat line as well. And of course, Miss Tanya Hall as
It's
well
Hall.
for joining us as well. You know, one of our favorite and best fans that we have on here as well.
She may be our most below watcher.
Exactly. So, all that being said, let's go ahead and go to our next story so that we can move forward. We still have quite a bit. A Dallas historical marker commemorating the lynching of a black man has been recently vandalized. A new historical marker in downtown Dallas is in the works after the original plaque commemorating the 1910 lynching of Allen Brooks was recently vandalized. The sign on the marker in Pegasus Plaza in downtown Dallas was removed and cut in half, says Ed Gray, president of the Dallas County Justice Initiative, also a board member of the Remembering Black Dallas. Now only the base remains. The marker was installed at the corner of Main and Ackerd Streets in 2021 to remember Mr. Brooks, who was lynched by an angry white mob at the Dallas County Courthouse ahead of his trial for the alleged assault of a young girl. The marker will either be completely redone or sent to the organization that originally built it, the Equal Justice Initiative in Alabama, for an exact replica. The Dallas Police Department said an investigation into the damaged city property is ongoing, but it's not being treated as a hate crime. There are no known suspects. The damaged plaque is now in the possession of Parks and Recreation. Gray wants the plaque to be restored by Juneteenth, being June the 19th, but manufacturing delays have slowed down the process. Gray states the United States, we are victims of whitewashing as well as brainwashing, and this is what this story is about. The story is about making sure that it's not just Black history, it's not Texas history, but it is about American history. He feels very strongly that justice will always rise to the top. We actually have Dr. Ed Gray on the line with us, so if he wants to share any thoughts or insight on that, feel welcome to do so. And of course, thank you for sharing this information, Jimmy. What say you? I don't know if you've seen
I would ask Ed if he would just come on and talk about it. We can
Gotcha.
come on as a guest on the show. But here's my thing, Tom. This organization that's you said in Alabama that we had to reach out to get the plaque replaced. There's not a local organization that could raise the funds to help restore this plaque or put something that's more permanent. Words are something that's with iron or bronze or something that's a little more difficult to destroy or damage.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question that hopefully Dr. Gray can answer. And of course, he's feel free if you'd like to call in and just provide your thoughts on that, Dr. Gray as well. But just something, because this is a part of the preservation of our history and our culture. And of course, as we've talked about many times before, we definitely need to own our own history.
We do.
Exactly.
Which means we take personal responsibility and financial responsibility. So we're going to put a GoFundMe page together, or someone we can mail a donation to get something more permanent and more lasting than just a sign. I mean, this is a good start. I mean, don't get me wrong. It looks really nice, but if it could be destroyed that easily, then yeah, we need something a little tougher. And Ed, if you're out there watching the show and listening, please take this invitation to come on next week as a guest so you can talk more detail and educate our audience about what's going on and how we can get this taken care of before the Juneteenth celebration.
Dr. Gray, can you talk right quick?
Sure, I can.
All right, we have Dr. Ed Gray on the line right now, who is joining us live with Black Men Speak to kind of talk about this incident that happened recently in Dallas Pegasus Square, and he's going to provide some insights into what happened and may be able to share some information about the Alabama group that's involved.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to speak on your show. I'm a big fan. The local organization that I'm the president of, which is called the Dallas County Justice Initiative, is the organization that put that historical marker up.
Okay.
We are the local chapter of the Equal Justice Initiative, which is based in Montgomery, Alabama. So you don't have to go no further than going right down the street to find people who can help us talk about this marker, because we are those people. We are those people who put up the historical marker at Allen Brooks, the lynching site that occurred there, also at the old Red Courthouse, also at Trinity Overlook Park, where there was another lynching, and also the mass lynching that occurred at Martyrs Park as well. So we put up all of those historical markers. So we are the local chapter.
Did not know that.
On board. So we're there. We're here.
Okay.
We won't disappear.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the man and the memorial very briefly, and why this is so important?
Well, Allen Brooks was a man that was lynched in 1910. He was accused of raping a little girl, and he didn't do it. But however, they had a trial for him. They threw him head first at the at Commerce Street. If you're driving down Commerce Street right before, if you're driving on Commerce Street right before you get to the triple underpass, that's where he was thrown at, on the right-hand side of the old Red Courthouse. Then he was dragged from that location all the way to Main and Acton, which is the actual center of Dallas, Texas, and that's where he was hung from a light pole. So there's actually 2 sites in Dallas that commemorate the lynching of one man, Allen Brooks. And I had the opportunity to bring his descendant, his great-granddaughter, to be with us when we put up the historical marker that is located at the old Red Courthouse. That still stands. But the one that's at Main and Acton Street, which is at Pegasus Park, which is across the street from the hotel. I can't think of the name of the hotel right now. It escapes me right now. But it's in the center of Dallas. That statue was cut down. That historical marker was cut down. Seemed like it was cut down with some type of instrument that sheared it in half.
Damn.
Gotcha.
So the plaques is now located with the Parks Department. They have it for safekeeping, but the pedestal is still there. So if you want to see the pedestal, it's there, but the plaque itself. Now, the issue that I have is that some people are trying to whitewash this story even today. They're trying to whitewash this story even today because they're saying that we don't know what happened. We have to check the tape. We don't know when it happened. We have to check the tape. We have to check the film. It may have been an accident that it occurred. There's no accident on that. There's no accident because where the plaque is located at, it's off the street. It's not on the street, so nobody ran over it. So you have to take steps to get into the park to actually do any damage to it.
Gotcha. So,
and the hotel that I was referring to is the Adolphus Hotel.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Of course, I remember
that's
the
where
Adolphus.
it's the park right next to the Adolphus Hotel.
Okay.
So, for those who want to support this cause, what would you recommend in terms of helping to restore or do anything else that is in order regarding this incident and moving forward?
To support it, I would like for each of you to contact the city council people in Dallas, not just the black ones, the white ones too, because this is American history. It's not black history, it's American history. So contact them and tell them to contact the city police department so they can go ahead and contact the individuals who have this footage so we can go ahead and bring justice. To bring justice out.
And so you're saying that
somebody's seen it.
And so what you're saying is there is potential footage out there that would have shown this happening?
Potential footage because downtown Dallas
has lots of cameras. So there's video of someone coming or going. You wouldn't be able to commit too many crimes downtown without getting photographed.
But that's in the city park. So the verbiage has been stated, the narrative, if you will, has been stated that we don't know yet because we haven't seen the footage. And that's normally what ends up happening all the time until someone comes up with the footage and they say, oh, wow. So that's what we have.
What would it take to muscle them to releasing the footage?
Pressure. And the pressure is contacting them. Parks Department as well.
Okay.
So somebody
We
has
need
the
all
footage.
your listeners, and including the host of this great show, to contact the city council to say, hey, look, let's release the footage so we can go ahead and see who did this, why they did this, and when they did this. We obviously know where. It's at Pegasus Park, so we know that. But the other, we don't know, and that's what we need to know. Now, regarding getting the new marker, that marker that we have now, we can't put that marker up. That marker is destroyed. So what we need a new marker. So that new marker will be coming forth from the Equal Justice Initiative. Now, the Equal Justice Initiative, for the listeners to your show, that organization, most people may remember it through pop culture, if you will. There was a movie with Jamie Foxx that was in it, in which an innocent man was proven, innocent man was proven guilty by a corrupt court system, and then he was released from jail. That is what the Equal Justice Initiative is about. It's not about lynching purely in itself. It's about appealing to have social justice and human rights done throughout the city of Dallas, Fort Worth, and throughout all of America. Because this is epidemic throughout the United States. We all suffer the same injustices throughout the country. Mass incarceration is one of the other things that we deal with as well.
Okay.
Bottom line, call your council person, have them to put the pressure on the police department and pressure them to have the footage released.
That's correct. That's it.
And if you can't get through on the phone, every city council person has an email account. Take a couple of moments, just send them an email. And actually, they probably have a group email account that goes to all of the council people at one time for the at-large people. So take a few moments, whether you give them a phone call and get through, or send them an email, but just let your voice be known.
And it doesn't matter whether you are a resident of the city of Dallas or not.
I'm not, but I'll be sending my message in, Tom. So I just want to tell them where I live.
And we expect everybody who's watching this show to send a message and put the pressure on them to do what's right, to release the footage and make sure that this is corrected and restored. This is about our history. This is about American history. Brother Gray, any other final thoughts? And we so appreciate you taking the time to kind of share.
I appreciate it. One other final thought. And I want your listeners to know, when it says aluminum, it's not like the aluminum can. Because I heard it, I started laughing. I said, man, this ain't no aluminum can.
Yeah.
This is strong aluminum. It's aluminum force. So it's not aluminum can where you throw a rock at it, it'll break. So it's strong. So this is the type of markers that are used throughout the United States. So that's what most
So you said it took some effort to destroy it.
Aluminum. Go ahead.
So it would take some effort.
It takes great effort.
Okay.
It takes great effort. Because you need a solve. It's not something real cheap.
Okay.
When I heard
that's
that,
corrected then.
Because I was listening. I said, man, you just threw me underneath the bus. I don't know what
So these weren't no random thugs just spray painting stuff and knocking off.
I know, just something
professionals who knew what they were doing.
I didn't know.
Yeah, these were people who knew what they were doing.
Yes.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
So I stand corrected.
It looks like they styled it out because it's a clean cut. So your listeners and viewers can, if they can go Google Ed Gray and Google lynching again and look at the latest episodes that was featured on Channel 8 on Monday. So on Sunday, I'm sorry. So it's featured on Sunday. So we do have that footage as well.
Well, that invitation for next week, Ed, is still open to you if you want to come on the show and talk about the organization some more. If you because some of the things you mentioned about all the things that you guys are doing, all the plaques that y'all are supporting, I wasn't aware of. But I'm glad that there is an organization that has taken responsibility to make sure that happens. Our history is recorded. So that invitation is still there if you want to come. Just reach out to Tom, our news director, and he'll get your schedule.
All right, Jimmy, I appreciate it.
Yes,
now,
sir.
we don't have to go to Alabama. All we have to do is go down the street and hang a left, you know?
All right.
Left,
Sounds good.
Right.
And I guess Zarin Grace is going to be getting a call. His office is going to be getting a call from me this week. Find out what's going on.
He's good people.
All right. Well, good people need to make it right.
Right.
That's right.
All right. Thank you very much, Brother Gray.
I appreciate you. Take care. Bye.
All right. There we go, folks. Live and on spot. You got it, Jimmy. Any final thoughts before we go to our next story?
No, I'm good. I'm glad Ed's on top of it. And like I said, I'll be sending my email to the city council members of Dallas. So, and just to give my support. But everyone needs to reach out to someone else and to do the same. So it's not just your voice. You know, if you got family members and friends, just ask them to do the same. If they have a few minutes, 5 minutes to make your voice heard.
All right, Jimmy, let's go to our next story. This was kind of hot off the press, and this was actually an add-on, but I think something we can speak to briefly and keep moving. There was a bill allowing Texas colleges to pay athletes get Senate approval recently. Texas colleges could soon pay student athletes directly for the first time. The Texas Senate unanimously passed a bill on Tuesday that would allow colleges to enter directly into what are called name, image, and likeness, or NIL agreements with athletes. Currently, only outside entities like national advertisers and athletic boosters can do so. Senators hopped on calls with college coaches across the state who emphasized they needed the legislation to disperse millions of dollars as part of a court settlement that is expected to be finalized in the fall and to be able to effectively recruit top talent. Senator Brandon Creighton, a Conroe Republican, sponsored the legislation in the upper chamber, agreed on Tuesday to limit the deal making to athletes 17 and older after hearing concerns from his Democratic colleagues that younger athletes might be taken advantage of. The student athletes would not receive payments from the university until after they are enrolled and participated in their sports program. Creighton, who authored Texas's existing NIL law, said student athletes would still be prohibited from entering into agreements with sexually oriented businesses, alcohol, or tobacco companies. They'd also still be required to take a financial literacy course as well. The proposal comes after several high-profile lawsuits against NCAA, challenging its restriction on compensation. The NCAA is expected to cap the total amount all universities can pay their athletes annually to $20 million. Smaller universities can make strategic investments below the cap to recruit for their sports programs. Division I generates billions of dollars in revenue annually, while less than 2% of college athletes actually go pro. The law could take effect as early as September the 1st if the House concurs with the Senate's amendment and if the governor signs off on it. And there is no indication that if it gets to him, that being Abbott, that he would not. I don't know if you've come across this, Jimmy. I saw it today and thought I'd do a quick insert on that.
Yeah, this is a non-story to me, Tom. I don't care one way or the other. I'm more concerned about the transfer portal than NIL money. So I think it's okay. It's good. It allows some athletes to stay in school and play longer rather than and resist the temptation to go pro maybe before their time because they need the money. So if you can get paid while you're playing a sport and do some revenue sharing, when you're generating billions of dollars in revenue for the conference and for the schools, for overall sports, hey, give some of it back to the student athletes. I don't have a problem with it.
Get your share.
Yeah. So what's our next story?
All right. This is a follow-up. It was one we didn't get a chance to talk to very much, but it was actually last week's story that kind of went to this week. And this is, of course, the visit between South African President Cyril Ramaphosa to the White House last week, initially considered to be a routine display of statesmanship, kind of turned interesting as Donald Trump dimmed the lights, cued a video reel of some violent imagery, and confronted the president with accusations of white genocide in South Africa. The scene switched what started as a smooth diplomatic dialogue into what is considered by some to be an ambush, stunning observers, shocking Pretoria, South Africa, that is, and exposing a trend in modern geopolitics. Ramaphosa Ramaphosa, firmly rejected the accusation, stating that South Africa's policies oppose such actions. He emphasized that while crime does exist in South Africa, as it does every place, it affects all citizens, overwhelmingly, though Black Africans, and there is no targeted violence against white South Africans there. Trump claims have been widely discredited by experts and human rights organizations. Data from the South African Police Service and independent analysts indicate that the farm attacks are a part of the country's broader crime challenges and are not racially motivated. Crime statistics for the third quarter of 2024-2025 reported 12 farm murders between October through December of 2024, with only one victim identified as a white farmer. The remaining victims included farm dwellers, workers, and security guard, overwhelmingly Black. The data contradicts narratives suggesting that there is a so-called genocide against white farmers in South Africa.
Okay, so I did watch the news conference, and so from my view, and I said this last week, the South African delegation was ambushed because they didn't know this was coming. They came here to talk about trade and the tariffs. That's what they thought, and maybe some economic investment from America into South Africa. And then there's this issue about the white genocide pops up, and then they show the film. So what the film shows is just like, we have, sometimes you see on the freeway some flowers or a marker that signifies where someone may have died in a car accident on this freeway. They basically had a road where they had these type of plaques just lined up on both sides of the road. And that basically people were paying their respect, driving real slow on both sides of the roads as I guess, paying their respect to the dead. Now, the narrative in the video was these were all white farmers who were killed during the sort of white genocide. And what the government and leader, what the president basically pointed out was the murder rate for white people in South Africa is less than 1%. Now, Tom, you're looking crazy, but yeah, that's true, less than 1%.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm not disagreeing with you, but he's talking about a white genocide. And there are a lot of other fish to fry when we talk about genocide, but South Africa ain't one of them. And that's even including white South Africans saying there are
white South Africans who are killed, but not more than anybody else. In fact, Black South Africans are killed at a much higher
significantly higher rate.
Which doesn't make it any better if you're the family member of either white, Black, or mixed South Africans. You lose someone, you lose someone. But here's my point, Tom. And this is just to point out the group survival mechanism that I've talked about here. It doesn't take very many white people to die for attention to be raised. In this country, let a little white girl get kidnapped, and the whole media attention, law enforcement turns out to figure out where she is.
In one day.
You can get a whole busload of Black kids come missing, and no one cares. And so, white people die in this country, it means something. Black people die in this country, especially at the hands of other Black people, it means nothing. And unfortunately, we are part of that narrative, Tom, because when we talk about Black on Black crime, the first thing out of people's mouth is making an excuse, well, there's white on white crime also that we don't talk about. No, that's not the point. The point is that white people look out for white people. I don't care how few white people die, a few of them die at the hands of anybody is a story. Millions of us can die, and it'll be passing news by tomorrow. The point is we have to care more about our group than any other person, and we can't expect white people to care more about Black death than we do. We're too heavily invested in death as a group. Entertainment, sports, and death. Those are our three lanes that we seem to be stuck in and can't get out of, except for a few of us who realize that you're made for greatness and go out there and do great things. All of Black people around the world should be understanding that you are superior genetically to everybody else on this planet, and you are built to do great things. That doesn't make you better than everyone, especially if you don't live out your potential. But it does mean that you have the ability to achieve greatness. And when Black people die, one person, 100 people, it doesn't matter. We need to care about black death the same way white people care about white death.
Agreed.
So all Trump is saying is that white people care about white people dying.
But
even though it's not that many.
You cannot base that on lies, and you cannot base that on pictures that weren't even in the country that they were reported to be on, because the pictures that he was showing were in the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
But Tom, that's the point, though, is that they still care enough to bring attention to it and try to bring awareness to it.
The problem is you're basing your information on lies that weren't even in the country that you were purporting it to have been.
Tom, the point is that they're still basing it on something. Even it's lies. He's still
Jimmy.
He's still making the effort.
Jimmy. We can't do that. We can't.
Well, okay, Tom, maybe you can because he did.
You cannot.
My point is that we don't care about black lives the way white people care about white lives, because we don't make a protest, we don't make any noise, we don't make a stink about anybody black dying. Let white people die, and you see the effort they go through, even if it's based on a lie.
But there are white people dying every day, just like there are black people dying every day.
Let white people die. Let white people die at the hands of non-white people.
Now, there's your point. There's your point. There's your point. Okay, as long as we got it straight. There's your point.
My point was they care enough about their group to make some noise about it and do something about it.
But what if they're not dying at the hands of somebody else?
Okay, Tom, we'll do apples for apples.
It's just a political.
Black people die in the hands of white people. What are we talking about?
The problem is this has no basis. It's based upon lies, and it's just used to make a political breaker.
So the difference here, Tom, is that
you're creating something out of thin air.
You want to highlight the wrongness of it and the victimhood of it. And
it has nothing to do with victimhood.
And I'm trying to highlight the solution of it. The solution is we have to care more about our people than we do. That's the point. You know what? If some white mercenaries kill some black people in Timbuktu, I don't care if you said Timbuktu or Ghana or the Ivory Coast. Who cares about the location or where the story came? Just the fact that some black people died somewhere is what we should be concerned about. The fact that our policies towards Haiti and black Latinos coming to this country,
which we report on, which we report on what's going on in Haiti. And we
report on it, Tom. But my point is that other groups get to come into this country. If you're a white Cuban, you can, as soon as you hit the sands of Miami, the beach of Florida, you're given instant citizenship.
Just like the white South African.
If you're a dark-skinned Cuban, they put you back on that boat or raft or inner tube and put you back out in the ocean until you don't come back. That's my point. Is that we seem to be okay with that. Haitians coming here, same thing.
No, we're not okay with that, Jimmy.
Tom, we don't protest about it. We don't make noise about it.
Yes, we do. What it does not make is the white mainstream headline news. It doesn't make that news, but we do protest.
Okay. You're going to have to highlight me on, educate me.
Because what we have to do is we have to put it on our platform because we know it's not going to be
on. We do put it on our platform.
That's the point. Because it's not going to show up on CNN. It's not going to show up on Fox.
It doesn't show up on the Breakfast Club. It doesn't show up on the Group. It doesn't show up on a lot of black platforms either.
It shows up on ours, and that's what matters.
Yeah, well, that is true. It shows up on Black Men Speak, so that's all that really matters.
All right, let's keep going. We got about
what's our next story, T?
All right, Jimmy. We've got a couple of things. All right, let's get to one of those stories that, to your point, I've only been able to find on local stories that I thought was pretty interesting. But a young lady came up missing over a year ago now, I believe it was. And Maxwell Anderson, who is charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, and hiding a corpse and arson of property other than a building, is accused of killing Sade Robinson after a date, dismembering her and dumping her body parts across Milwaukee County. One of her arms was later found on an Illinois beach. Prosecutors said Anderson and Robinson showed up at a bar on April the 1st, 2024, a little bit over a year ago, the night she was last seen alive. The next day, Robinson's burned out car was found. Surveillance photos show a man investigators believe as Anderson walking away from the area and who was later seen on a bus heading back towards his home on the city's south side. An unsealed search warrant confirmed a statement that a confidential police informant made to Milwaukee police detectives claiming the 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson, charged in Robinson's murder, had a plan to kill Robinson and was inside Anderson's basement on March the 5th, that being the informant, weeks before Robinson's murder. The informant also told investigators Anderson detailed a plan to shoot Robinson before dismembering her in the basement and disposing of her body throughout the city. Maxwell has a lengthy criminal history, including domestic abuse, drunken driving, and disorderly conduct. When police searched Anderson's home, they found blood on the walls in a sex dungeon in the basement. The blood was tested and determined that it was not Robinson's. The assistant district attorney described the killing and dismemberment of Robinson as the highest level of violence imaginable. Anderson was charged with killing Robinson on April the 12th, 2024, over a year ago. The murder trial just started yesterday. One of the reasons why I'm bringing this to light, because this is a young lady who unfortunately made a bad mistake in going out with somebody and has not been seen since. And I've only seen this on local Milwaukee news stories and have not seen this on national news whatsoever. And I just thought it was very interesting that I hadn't seen this anyplace else, because I know if this young lady were not Black, we probably would have been seeing it in other areas.
And the perpetrator?
Maxwell, yes, was Caucasian.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
so
the only
looking,
reason,
and so
that's the
looking
only reason
at,
it made news to Tom, even locally. If
and
this was a
this
black
is
on
the
black
picture
crime,
of Maxwell and the beautiful young lady Sade Robinson, who, matter of fact, ironically enough, was studying criminal justice.
yeah, if this was a black on black crime, it wouldn't even been local news. So, but we send our regards to the family, and I hope justice is served here by this person getting the death penalty and no longer have the privilege to be among the living, since you're going to do something this heinous to another person.
Exactly. I mean, and this is just gruesome, because again, if this young lady were not Black, this would be national news, and it would have been national news.
Oh
And
yeah, it would be
have
national news.
and the trial would have started within probably a couple of months. There is no way that it would take a year for the trial to start. So
Well,
our prayers to the family, the Robinson family, and we certainly hope that the family gets justice, and more importantly, that it is a swift and speedy trial. And we will definitely continue to monitor this.
yes, we will.
I was just stunned that even the articles last year, they were all local.
Well, you know what? Make sure that you register to vote. You answer those summons for jury duty, and because if you're not there to participate, don't be surprised and shocked about the outcome. So, but yeah, let's hope justice is served.
All right.
A good case.
All right, Jimmy. Now on, of course, to the Diddy trial that has been unfolding for a very long time, Jimmy, and the ongoing trial, of course, of Sean Diddy Combs,
Puffy.
Puff Daddy. I can't think of all the names, charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy and transportation to engage in prostitution, being adjudicated now at the Manhattan Federal Court. His former assistant, Capricorn Clark, testified recently that he repeatedly threatened her life, subjected her to lie detector tests, and forced her at gunpoint to join him in a plot to kill rapper Kid Cudi, who I believe was dating his ex-girlfriend.
Well, current girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, yeah.
Exactly. Federal prosecutors say that for decades, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced women into participations in marathon sex encounters called Freak Off, and used his business empire along with weapons, kidnapping, and arson to conceal the crimes. Jimmy, we have been kind of looking at this for quite a long time, Jimmy, and things are starting to heat up. There's a lot of other things going on.
You're looking at it the wrong way, Tom. This is for a while there. I used to talk to my wife about it, and I was like, well, I don't understand why Puffy didn't just take a deal and fall on the sword, because a lot of ugly stuff is going to come out in trial.
Agreed.
But I'm surprised. But I see right now the trial is the sword, Tom. That one, there's a chance he may be found innocent of racketeering. He's been charged with RICO. RICO is for crime organizations.
Correct.
How are you going to be an organization of one? Who else is, when RICO is charged against mobsters, it's 20, 30, it's a whole organization on trial. How the hell
You're talking about a co-conspirator. You're talking about a co-conspirators.
Yeah, I mean, how you get a RICO? Because the RICO is designed to go after the head of the organizations when it's always the street guys who are doing the crime, but the guys at the top are getting away with everything. So that's what RICO is designed for. Okay, so you're the top of the organization, but where's the rest of the organization who's being charged with you? So, and then here's the other disappointing thing, Tom, about this whole Diddy trial. All the people involved, why is it that this really didn't become an issue until after the Cassidy tape came out and one of Diddy's bodyguards who claimed he quit, left his employ, and started talking about tapes of people, famous people, influential people, powerful people, being at the Diddy's homes. And now all of a sudden, with these freak off parties, and now all of a sudden his homes are being raided. And what are they after? They're not after the 1,000 bottles of baby oil that he had in the house. They're not after the drugs or guns that he had in the house. No, Tom, they were looking for the tapes. And why are the tapes important? One, it's not just some of the famous celebrities, Britney Spears, Kevin Hart, Usher, Beaver, that are on there. Powerful preachers like T.D. Jakes. No, Tom, the most, Oprah Winfrey, the most powerful person on those tapes is Barack Hussein Obama. This is what this is all about. This is about protecting the image of the rich and powerful. It's the same thing with Epstein. They say they couldn't release the Epstein list because it was part of an active investigation. Well, okay, Epstein's dead. He hung himself from a bunk bed. Who in the hell ever heard of someone dying, being able to hang themselves from a bunk bed? All of a sudden, the videotape's not working that night. The guards are sleeping or looking the other way. Everything that could go wrong that night that he died mysteriously went wrong. In the list of Epstein's,
they didn't want him naming names to get a deal.
The Bill Gates and the Bill Clintons and God knows who else went to Epstein's Island on that flight list and was participating in his cause.
There were too many powerful people, and this thing had to disappear.
Once again, same thing with Diddy, Tom. Same scenario, because we don't know. They hadn't officially released all of the kids that Diddy took advantage of, all the young people. I mean, we're hearing stories from some of the people who are in the know, but for the most part, all the people who are really wrapped up in this, who participate in these things, who own these videotapes, have not been mentioned. A lot of very powerful people. There's just been hints of people. So I think this trial is to be able to put all this behind us, bury it all, and cover it up, because we're never going to know the full extent of all the people who've been involved.
In addition to the fact that this is, interestingly enough, just within a year or so after he went afoul with this business agreement that he had with the vodka company. I think it was named Ciroc, something or another. I think you may remember that, Jimmy.
I do. And people are saying that it's connected to the liquor company. Exactly. Tom, I think it's more connected to his bodyguard, who said he witnessed a lot of abuse. He couldn't take it anymore and decided to quit. And then he started talking about how all the rooms in Diddy mansions have cameras in them. And people have been recorded without their consent or knowing, and that Diddy has tapes on everybody. That's how he blackmailing people and stays in his power. I think it started after that, because one of the people that you may have gotten caught on that videotape, outside of all the rich and famous folks that are at these freak-offs, is one former president.
Allegedly.
Well, release the tapes.
That's
release the tape. That'd be simple.
Allegedly.
Put them on pay-per-view. I pay to see the tapes. Release the tapes to the public. Put them on the dark web if you want to.
Jimmy, if they won't release the tapes of somebody cutting down a memorial in Dallas, Texas, they're not going to easily show the tapes of someone that rich, famous, and powerful in something of this magnitude, Jimmy.
There's not just Obama, it's other politicians, other CEOs. One of the bodyguards said it's like over 200 CEOs from the biggest companies in America who are at these parties. So, like I said, release the tapes to the public. You can blot out the really graphic parts if you want to, but
and some powerful folks within the ministerial community who we will leave nameless either, allegedly.
I'm not leaving them nameless, Tom. T.D. Jakes has been the biggest fish of that pool, and that's just one big cesspool with these ministers taking advantage of young boys. It's not just Catholic priests. It's Baptist preachers, it's Pentecostals, it's AMEs and the CMEs. It's all these big-time preachers. I don't know why you're not happy with just being married and having a wife. every now and then putting your hands on some of the single ladies in the congregation that you want to go after young boys, but evidently they get a kick out of flipping young boys and young men who are straight into being gay.
Well, they say, Jimmy, power corrupts and absolute.
Yes, it
power
does,
corrupts absolutely. Allegedly.
Corrupts absolutely. That is true. So
All right,
we're going to keep an eye on that, Tom, and try to bring the folks more news. But yeah, this is the big cover up, the way to cover this whole thing up and bury it once and for all. Once this trial is over, up, downs, or indifferent, it's not going to matter because the people on those tapes will never be revealed. The people on Epstein's list who've been to that island doing all kind of crazy stuff will never be released. And yeah, and even the Epstein's girlfriend who was charged with, she's in prison now for trafficking young girls to the island, a lot of whom were underage.
Yeah.
Tom, she's sitting there in prison, but not one John has been arrested. You got all these rich and famous people who are taking advantage of these young girls, i.e. like Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, and a bunch of others, but somehow they've never been charged, cited, given a citation, a fine, or anything. But you go down to Harry Hines Boulevard and get caught picking up a prostitute and see if your ass don't end up in jail, maybe in some trouble and having to pay to get out of it and putting your name in the paper. But for the rich and famous, nothing.
Well, Jimmy, that's why it pays to be
Then pay to be poor.
wealthy. It pays to be wealthy and powerful. They would say above the law.
So, Tom, let me ask you, what do you think about the my rainbow mic?
I think it's you're talking about the one that's to your right now.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. It changes colors. So
it changes colors.
Good
it's
deal.
not the golden mic that Rush Limbaugh used to have, but hey, this is the best I can afford. So it's pretty good, actually, hyper mic.
Gotcha. Well, before we close out, Jimmy, I think we pretty much covered all of our stories. We are.
No, we got one storm that we haven't covered that we've kind of been avoiding.
What's that?
So we need to definitely cover it next week.
Okay, that's fine.
As LeBron James tarnishes GOAT
Oh,
consideration.
well, the only other thing I thought we were going to talk about because we're stepping in that direction that I thought was going to go in the NBA Conference Finals. So
let's take 2 minutes and talk about the finals real quick.
All right, two minutes. 2 minutes.
I'm glad to see Indiana do what they're doing. A lot of young kids coming up. I'm sorry for New York and Bronson because he playing his heart out, trying to keep them in games. But those boys from Indiana are just too much, Tom. And then, like I said, I predict OKC is going to win it all, though, because they got the MVP, and SGA is going to win MVP of the playoffs, and Oklahoma is going to win the championship. So that's a trifecta.
Gotcha. Well, I did make the call on OKC over Minnesota. I did make the call over Indianapolis, over the New York Knicks, even though I was kind of pulling for Bronson. But,
Same here.
But my mind was telling me it's going to be the Indiana Pacers after seeing them do what they did in the first and second round. So it's shaping up to be an interesting conference finals. Both of them, Indiana and OKC, are up 3-1. So I just don't see both of them losing 3 games straight.
Is Minnesota playing tonight? OKC?
Yeah, I believe they are.
Well, I'm going to go head down and watch the show, Tom, after the show concludes. So, everyone, good night. Thank you for watching the show.
Yeah, and matter of fact, as we speak,
don't tell me the score.
No, don't tell you the score.
Yeah, don't tell me.
Okay, all right. I'll leave it alone. I'm
gonna go back and catch it from the beginning. I'm just gonna, instead of hitting play, I'm just gonna hit play from beginning.
Okay, all right.
Game.
All right, folks, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show. Of course, look out for us next week at the same time. Looks like we had a couple of, we had a lot of, let me see here, excellent information from Ms. Tanya, the President Trump, and J.D. Vance on the island as well.
They may have been.
I think it tied to some very elite white men that were over this company that he sued and make his way to the lawsuit to go. Ciroc, that is the liquor brand that he was fighting with. Trump is the only cynical, disgusting former president that would be at something like that. AC, President Obama wouldn't have stepped a pinky toe into something like that. He doesn't have the history or past history or present history to say that he's that disgusting. Mainly Catholic priests, though. Let's be real. History reflects that continuously, even today. Okay, I'm not going to say Catholic Church. Okay. And I like the mic, Jimmy. I noticed it last week, so I guess she likes the microphone too.
Oh, thank you, Miss Tanya.
And
And
we
I
look,
agree with her. I still blame the Catholic Church. They need to open that diocese up, Tom, so these priests can have an outlet besides young boys.
gotcha. And we look like we've got Counselor Elisa Patterson, who joined a little bit late. Hey, want to thank you for joining us this evening. Hope you all enjoyed the show. And of course, catch us next week, because if it's Wednesday night, Jimmy.
It's Black Man Speak.
All right, good night, everyone.